You make me happy, whether you know it or not. We should be happy, that's what I said from the start. I am so happy, knowing you are the one that I want for the rest of my days. For the rest of my days. You're all of my days. You're looking so cool, you're looking so fly.
All right, so tonight we are going to talk about the science of happiness. The science of happiness. Some of you may be wondering, in today's crazy, stressed out world, is happiness even possible? Is it really possible? And I'm here tonight to tell you that not only is it possible, it is inevitable. It's inevitable that each and every one of you will become happier if you follow the laws of science. The science of happiness. So tonight, like any good scientist or 2-year-old child, we're going to ask a series of questions. What? Why? And how? What is happiness? Why should I care? And how can I get me some? So let's look at what. Happiness is not smiling and being giddy all of the time, right? That's called being stoned. And you can't do that in the long term, trust me. So when we're talking about happiness, what I really like to think of is that happiness is a mindset. Happiness is a way of thinking, it's a way of perceiving, it's a way of interpreting the world. And we know that our mind is an incredibly, incredibly powerful tool. Buddha said, we are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. There's been documentation of certain women who are able to just via visualizing, just by having something going on in their mind, they can orgasm. Did she just say orgasm? They can reach climax hands-free just from visualizing. So if our mind is so powerful to bring us that much intense pleasure, imagine what it can do on a more consistent basis. So thinking about our mindset, thinking about this cognitive mindset of what happiness is, it really incorporates things like satisfaction. Satisfaction with life. A sense of well-being, purpose, and meaning, which is so absolutely vital. Self-confidence, believing in ourselves, who we are as people, being resilient to the craziness that life throws at us. And then what I call realistic optimism. Realistic optimism. When I think about can we really be happy even when tough things happen to us, it reminds me of a client that I had. When I was doing my postdoctoral training, I was working at a major medical center, and there was a trauma unit there. And I'll never forget, I got a consult for a gentleman named Roger. And Roger was an electrician, and he'd been working on a wire that was supposed to be inactive, but unfortunately it was quite active, and an electrical current went through both of his arms and burned him so severely that they had to amputate both of his arms. And I gotta tell you, I was thinking about this. I'm standing outside Roger's door, and I'm thinking, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna help this guy? He lost both of his arms. Of course he's gonna be depressed. How can I help him? Now, granted, this is not what you want your strength to be thinking before they're coming in to help you, but this is where I was. And I remember opening that door thinking, what am I gonna do to help this guy? And as I opened the door, I saw Roger sitting there with a big smile on his face. And of course I thought, poor guy's in denial. He's delusional, he doesn't know he lost his arms. But he was quite aware that he had lost his arms. You see, Roger wasn't focusing on the fact that his arms were no longer there. He was focused on the fact that he was here. Roger had been wearing a cross at the time of this accident. And the doctor said that had he not been wearing the cross, which is where the electrical current exited, had he not been wearing that cross, he would have died, because all the electrical current would have gone through his body and burned it. Roger was focusing on that. He was focused on the fact in his mind that God had left him for a reason. He had a purpose in this life. He didn't know what it was. He didn't know why this had happened to him, but he knew that he was here for a purpose, and he was excited to figure it out. Now, the good news is we don't have to amputate our arms in order to be happy, right? The other good news is we don't have to wait for external circumstances to be perfect in order to be happy. We can be happy today, regardless of what's going on. talk about why. Why bother? Sometimes people look at me and they say, oh, how cute, the little shrinks talking about happiness. Well, here's the deal. Happiness is actually integral to everything that we do. We have a misconception in our society that goals will cause happiness. When we achieve goals, then we'll be happier, right? So if only I lose 10 pounds, then I'll be happy. Or if only I get that job promotion, then I'll be happy. Or if only I get married, then I'll be happy. Or if only I get divorced, then I'll be happy. Okay? We have this sense of what I call if-only syndrome. If only I achieve this goal, then I will be happy. The problem is that's not true, right? Once we achieve the goal, we then look for the next goal that we have to achieve in order to be happier. And in fact, the secret really to achieving anything you want in life is to get happiness first. Because happiness actually affects every other part of our lives. So picture, if you will, an open pond, a serene, calm pond, and you take a rock and you throw it into the center. What do you get? You get a big splash, and then you have the ripple effect. The rock is happiness. The splash is our emotional health. Because obviously when we're happier, we have less depression, less stress, better self-confidence. And that in and of itself is awesome. But wait, there's more. Because the research shows that happiness affects every other part of our lives. So our physical health, for example, gets better. And the research shows overwhelmingly that people who are happier live longer and they have less disease. Happiness affects our relationships. I don't know about you, but when I'm not happy, I'm not so fun to be around, right? I don't even want to be around me, much less my poor family. But when we're happier, we're more thoughtful, we're more compassionate, we're kinder, we're much more patient, which allows us to be better parents and better spouses and better friends and better members of the community because we're more likely to help out other people. Happiness also affects our work. And there's a lot of great research looking at the benefits of happy workers. Happy workers have less turnover, less absenteeism. They are much more productive, and they make a lot more money for their companies or for themselves. So I hope you can see why happiness is so very important to us. It really is just that pivotal point to every facet of our life. So we've talked about why it's important. Now let's talk about how. How do we achieve this? If you get nothing else from my talk this evening, I hope you will remember this. Happiness is a skill. Ooh, that's so good, I'm gonna say it again. Happiness is a skill. And just like any other skill, some people are born good at it. But if we have the right training, all of us could get better. To illustrate this point, let me take another skill. Golf. I don't golf. Not even all that interested in golfing, but let's hypothetically say I went out on the golf course with some golf balls and golf clubs, and I hit the ball for a couple hours. I bet I could develop a really nasty swing. I mean, a swing that would make golf people just cringe. And if I kept practicing it over and over and over again, it would become stronger and more automatic and probably even worse. As a society, this is exactly what we're doing when it comes to happiness. We're trying so hard to be happy, but we're practicing the wrong skills. Right? Ben and Jerry's therapy. Throwing ourselves into hours and hours and hours of work, or watching a screen for 5 to 6 hours a day, thinking this is going to make me happier. We're trying really hard, but we're practicing the wrong skills. Now, going over to the golf example, let's hypothetically say I hire a golf pro to teach me how to stand and how to hold the club and how to rotate my body and how to hit the ball. And I practiced those skills. Do you think I'd get better? I couldn't help but get better, right? If I got the right training and I practiced the right skills, I literally could not help but become a better golfer. Well, guess what? Happiness is the same thing. When you learn the right skills and you practice those, you cannot help but be happier. So in our remaining time, let's talk a little bit about what the skills are. You know, it reminds me, my grandmother used to teach a college course that was called How to Play the Piano Despite Years of Practice. How to play the piano despite years of practice. So the rest of my talk is really going to be about how to be happy despite years of practice. So I have developed an acronym called AGE. AGE, the thought of age doesn't always bring a lot of happiness to us, but this time it will. So AGE stands for a couple different things, and we're going to go over them. The first one, A, is apply what's important. Really what I wanted to say was apply your values and strengths, but there wasn't enough room. So apply your values and strengths. What's important to you? What gets you jazzed up? What energizes you? Applying that into your life. When I was 7 years old, my mom signed me up for ballet class. And I went a couple times, but I didn't really like it too much. And I remember pulling on my mom's skirt one day and saying, "Mom, please, please, please don't make me go to ballet anymore. I'm really bad." And my mom, who's a second grade teacher, the sweetest woman in the world, looks down at me and says, "Elizabeth, you can do anything you set your mind to." So we had this back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And of course she won because she was the one who was feeding me and driving me. Come to the end of the school year. We have a huge recital. And I started thinking about what my mom said. If I put my mind to it, I can do anything. So I started practicing, not just in ballet, but outside of ballet. And I'd do my jetés as I was going down the hallway at school, and practice my demi-pliés while I was brushing my teeth, and I was really practicing. Finally, the big day arrives, and I donned my mustard yellow tutu, and I got up on stage, and I performed to the best of my ability. And without bragging, I got a standing ovation. Now, the whole class got a standing ovation, but I was part of that class, and so technically I got a standing ovation. And after the recital, my mom rushes back, and she gives me this big hug, and she looks at me so lovingly, and she says, "Elizabeth, you don't have to do ballet anymore." Turns out I'm really not good at ballet. We all do things that we don't really like to do. To be happier, find out what's important to you and apply that in your life. Next one, gratitude. Gratitude, gratitude. We've all heard the age-old adage, right? Glass half full, half empty. Which is the truth? Which is the actual, factual truth? And the answer is both. The answer is both. So when we're talking about gratitude, when we're talking about appreciating what we have, we're not talking about denying that maybe half the glass isn't full. I'm not suggesting you have thoughts like, "I am so glad because my husband just left me for a 20-year-old and I get to file for bankruptcy." That's delusional. If you're thinking like that, you definitely need my couch. When we're talking about gratitude, though, we're talking about things that are going well in your life. And a wonderful thing to do that is really proven in the research to help people be happier is to write down 5 things for which you are happy every week. It doesn't even have to be every day. Write down 5 positive things. Maybe it's people in your life or experiences or things that you're proud of. Once a week, 5 things. It will take you 17.5 seconds, cost you no money at all, but it will increase your happiness. So we have A, apply what's important to you, G, gratitude. Now we've got E. And in all fairness, that may be an appropriate finger for some when it comes to exercise. Exercise. We know the benefits of exercise on our physical health. But did you know that exercise has been proven to be as effective, if not more effective, than an antidepressant medication for people with depression? Pretty cool. It reduces our stress. It builds our self-confidence. It gives us better creative ideas. It boosts our positive energy. It helps us sleep better at night. It even enhances our libido. Guy back there's like, "Note to self, take wife for walk after dinner." Exercise is a wonderful, wonderful thing to do. And you can do anything that you want. You don't have to go to the gym. You don't have to go running. You can jump on the bed. You can dance around the house. Whatever it is, even just 5 minutes will help you feel happier. And I want to try a little exercise with you all now. What I want you to do is I want you to take your hands and I want you to put them right on your belly. Thank you. And then what I want you to do is I want you to give me the strongest, most amazing belly laugh you have ever given, as if you're watching a movie that is so funny, tears are about to come down your eyes. Go ahead. Now, luckily, the cameras were only on me and not you. Notice what happens, though. Notice what happens. You start to feel happier. And not only is that exercising your belly, but actually our brains, which aren't very smart, when they realize that your body is laughing or even smiling, even if you don't feel it, if you force yourself to do it, your brain says, oh, I must be happy. And so you start to feel happier. You start to feel happier. So, in conclusion, what we've talked about today, the science of happiness, isn't rocket science. Right? It's not rocket science. But hear me say, it is rocket fuel. It is rocket fuel, because if you apply these basic concepts, you can take yourself from wherever you are right now to wherever you want to go. So I plead with you, I ask you, I hope that you will apply the laws of science so that you can be an even happier you. Thank you.
You make me happy